Bem-vindo! Hoje é o nosso primeiro programa falando no inglês, no Connect TV.
Sorry, yes.
Welcome to the Algarve by Connect TV.
Bennett's Bedrooms, the #1 bed specialists in the Algarve.
Currency for you, achieving you more for your money.
At Living Life Algarve by Kat Almeida.
Welcome back to the Algarve, everyone. I'm very pleased today to be addressing a more serious subject. We're talking today about investments and all the tax concessions and the trials and tribulations that are part and parcel of people who move over to Portugal and, of course, move back to the UK. So today I'm delighted to welcome Gavin Scott, Regional Director of Blevins Franks.
Thank you very much,
Gavin, thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure to be here.
Can you, for people who don't know Blevins Franks, and you're celebrating your 50th year, not you personally, your 50th year this year, can you explain a little bit about your services for those of us who don't know more about it?
Yeah, so if we think back, probably the easiest way to explain it is historically, in that Bill Blevins and David Franks set up the company 50 years ago. And what they found was they were advising people exiting their businesses in the UK. And part of the advice that they were giving them was to say, listen, with the money that you can save in tax in the mid-70s, if any of your viewers remember those times in the UK, they'd say to do the proper tax planning, it's better that you're not in the country at the time of the sale. And so Portugal, Spain, France became very popular destinations for people to immigrate to do a lot of their tax planning. The issue with that was to say, well, are we going from the frying pan into the fire? And David Franks sat down and said, if you want to know a subject well, write a book on it. So he wrote the books Living in Portugal, Living in France, Living in Spain, for people making that move and that journey. And those books exist today to help people with the thought that, yes, I'm leaving these tax structures and succession thoughts, legal processes and so on behind in the UK, but what am I stepping into in Portugal, for example? Yeah. So we take people by the hand and we lead them through the process of maybe unwinding the UK positions and helping them adapt into Portugal and the legal and tax systems that we have here today.
Because of course it's not as simple as leaving one regime behind and coming into another.
No, very much, because if you think that we've got common law in the UK, and here it's a civil code that we have in Portugal and across Europe. And while lots of people say, oh, there's tax treaties between, there are double tax treaties that mean we don't pay tax twice, that might be true for things like income and gains tax. But when it comes to more complex issues like inheritance tax, people will find that there's no concept of an estate that we would have in the UK. And so we've got to think both about the tax pillar and the legal pillar when we're making that move, and we help people to do that.
And of course, inheritance tax is a really big subject, a problem for many, and something that a lot of people have a misconception that they believe they know what's going on. And of course, we've said you've got 40% inheritance tax in the UK, and we don't have any here in Portugal. If you're a resident, it's not as easy as that, Gavin, is it?
It's not as straightforward, no, because again, the different legal terms come into that. You say, well, you may still be deemed to be domiciled in the UK for inheritance tax purposes. And even when you think that you understand it, you've got to stay up to date. So we know that the government in the autumn statement and budget last year changed the rules around inheritance tax. Inheritance tax tends to, unlike income and gains tax, inheritance tax tends to follow you around the world, that you're still liable in the UK, even though you've moved away. That's all become a lot clearer with the statutory test now. And so we're able to, long-term residence, we talk about if you've been in the UK for a period of time, the UK wanted to capture more people who'd been living there but hadn't become subject to inheritance tax. And so they reduced the period in simple terms from 17 years to 10. That's benefited people who have been living in Portugal for some time. And so if you've been here for 10 years or more, all of a sudden that's opened up planning opportunities for people here. but you've got to stay on top and be current
Yeah.
with the legislation.
Because of course that changed quite recently. wasn't it?
It did, yeah. That was just in the autumn budget last year, and we're about to have another autumn budget coming up now. So you better stay
Thank
tuned.
heavens for people like you around, because it's beyond me. So the other big subject is pensions, because again, I'm constantly bombarded with emails or that are coming in from companies saying your UK pension and transfer, etc. But again, with the different taxations, it's not as straightforward as just having your pension sent over, is it?
No, absolutely. So a number of complications that come in. Firstly, if you're leaving pensions, say in the UK, then you've got to think about the double tax treaty and how those will be taxed cross-border if the income is arising there. So again, the double tax treaty takes care of that to ensure you don't pay tax twice. But what's happening now is that a lot of opportunity is opening up when the UK from 2027 will take away all inheritance tax benefit for pensions. So pensions were very, very attractive to people in the UK. They just said, if I contribute, I get the tax that I would otherwise have paid had I taken this money in income. I get that tax back. I get tax-free roll-up of the income and gains within the pension fund itself. And for a period of time, it remains inheritance tax. It remains outside of your estate for inheritance tax purposes, so it wouldn't be subject to. Again, the government last year changed those rules, and they've said that from 2027, your UK pensions will now form part of your estate for inheritance tax purposes. So
That's enormous.
That is enormous. That's suddenly an asset that can be somebody's largest asset by value, suddenly falling into your estate can make a big difference to people.
Gosh. Okay, so it's depressing.
Well, it sounds depressing, but actually, if you do the planning and so on, it can present opportunity. So, for example, we might look at UK pensions and say these were always income-producing assets. While they were tax efficient in the build-up, when we come to draw them down, we pay tax on every euro or every pound that we take out. So moving to Portugal can give you the opportunity to do some planning to restructure your pensions in a way that you recapitalise them, and in such become more tax efficient. And if you're here for long enough, perhaps you escape the UK inheritance tax as well.
Oh, okay, light at the end of the tunnel, possibly.
Leaving assets in the UK always seems odd to me. People move to Portugal and they pack everything into the removal van. They pack an iron and an ironing board, for example, and they come down, items that we can buy in Continent down the road for 20 euros. They've packed all these things and paid to have them shipped across the continent. And yet we leave some of our most valuable assets behind, property, pensions, and so on. And those are still under the grasp and control of the UK government.
Do you think it's because they kind of want that foothold, it's that security that says, if I ever want to go back, I'll have somewhere to go to?
Yeah, I think that's been a big issue over the years. I think I worked out in the Far East for 7 years, and people say, "Oh, we're really sorry that we sold our property because we've been out of that market." Yeah. And for those people who have been transient, so they've been out on contracts, it's maybe important to keep a foothold in the property market or any market, provided the monies are invested. Yeah. What we tend to find is that they've spent the money, and that's why they haven't kept pace with inflation and so on over that time. But if you're doing the proper planning, and many people coming have got no intention of returning to the UK, but have still left assets behind. So it's getting the right planning for the individual and taking the right advice.
And then you've got, life throws things at you. So we see lots of people, for instance, when I came over here, the average age of someone coming over was, I think, 54. Now it's come down to 37. But those 54-year-olds, of course, they've come over as a couple, new life, it's all wonderful. We're now 20, 30 years later, and one of them's not well, or one of them's passed away. That individual is left here on their own. And even if you have that social circle, there's that hankering to go back to where you've come from. Sure. So where do they stand now? If they were to go with all the change in the tax, what happens now if they go back?
Incredibly important, especially post-Brexit, that people take advice in that way. We've got a fantastic example at the moment of poor Angela Rayner and having taken what she thought was solid advice, but maybe, and we don't know, it's to come out, did she take it from the right person, and where was she going in good faith? She's bought another property and would have been subject to second property tax. Yeah. And what we've got to be careful is that we make sure we get the right advice in these cases. And so returning back to the UK, making sure that you've taken advantage of all of the planning steps that you can do before you go back. If I tell you the biggest growth area in our firm is our UK practice. So we're regulated in Europe and we're also regulated in the UK. And at the moment, we know that the statistics tell us something like 80% of surviving spouses on second death return to the UK. Yeah. So at the moment, we're dealing with a lot of people either in that circumstance where they've been clients for a very long time, or people who are coming to us fresh saying, post-Brexit, I think I understood everything in the UK before I left. It's been a long time I've been living in Portugal. We're thinking about going back now, and they must take the right steps to ensure that they don't inadvertently trip a tax wire on the way back.
And did I read something about how that affects pensions? Was there a second tax or something when you go back?
Yeah. So again, you're probably thinking about the inheritance tax rules and the double whammy that those suffer. So, for example, if we're leaving those assets in the UK, even if you're out of the UK, would still be subject to UK inheritance tax for a period of time, 10 years, let's say. And what would happen then is that your family then come along, they're now going to be paying inheritance tax at 40% on the value of the pension pot. Yep. They will then also have to pay additional income tax at their rates. And if they're taking it out as a lump sum, that's going to be higher rate tax. So say 40% inheritance tax, 40% income tax. There's not going to be much left in the pot.
20% left from your pension. Wow.
The third part to that story is then, and it gets worse, the third part of that story, of course, is that if that takes your estate value over £2 million, you start to lose your principal residence relief against your inheritance tax. So your nil rate bands are made up of, everybody gets £325,000 as a nil rate band as standard. And then we get an additional £175,000 against our main home. If your estate total value goes over 2 million, for every £2 it goes over, you lose £1 of that allowance. So not only is everything now compounding
it's just so
the value of the estate,
so
but we're losing and all of these nil rate bands have been frozen for the foreseeable future. So it means that as estate values increase over time, the nil rate bands stay where they are, and so the effect is greater tax collection for the revenue.
Gosh, that's scary. Okay, so if we go back to your company structure, so you're in the UK. We know you're here in the Algarve.
Yeah.
Have you got other branches here in Portugal?
Yeah, so our coverage of Portugal is our main hub office and branch office of the group company is here in Algarve, and there'll be I think 18 staff in that branch. We've got another half a dozen staff in an office in Cascais, and then poor old Stephen Rankin, he's on his own up in Porto, and Stephen covers Porto and Madeira. So we've got the whole of mainland Portugal covered, and Madeira as well, where we're regular visitors to the island.
And do you find that there's a region that attracts a higher investment than others?
That's a really interesting question, Kat. I think a number of years ago, I brought out a map and I said, where am I best spending my time, and where do I think that higher value and higher net worth individuals who will have a greater need for our services, where are they living across Algarve, Portugal? And I could have taken the jar of pins of different colours and just scattered them across the Algarve. There's no particular pattern. I think people think, oh well, net worth is concentrated in particular areas. The whole country, to be honest. I was concentrating on the Algarve at the time, but it applies to the whole country. People think that wealth is concentrated in particular areas, and that might be true in terms of property values, but it's not necessarily true in terms of residence. And it's people who have made that move from the UK to come and live permanently in Portugal, and they choose places all over Algarve. We would have assumed a number of years ago that places like Lisbon and Porto might have been less attractive than the Algarve for British expatriates to come and stay. But of course, what's happening, and we're seeing it in other parts, I'll use Toulouse in France, where Airbus have their base. And what happens, and if we think about it naturally, if I was living in Glasgow and I moved to London to work for my entire career, I might choose to retire in the home counties, and not necessarily move back to Scotland. And so people who have been working in Lisbon and Porto for a number of years, why would they want to retire back to the UK? They've enjoyed a nice working life where they are, and now they may well choose to stay exactly where they are in retirement. So we're finding that places like Lisbon and Porto are growing in popularity, even for retirees, and not just the digital nomads and so on that are.
Well, I think also latest figures show that Lisbon is, I think it's the 5th most popular place for digital nomads, and the Algarve is in the top 10 for the first time. So there's been, obviously, since the pandemic, it just showed you that you could work from home. So that age I said of 54 when I came over, it's now dropped to 37. So you've got an entirely different demographic. And it means that they can choose to live wherever they fancy. And of course, Algarve was the destination of choice because we've got the sun. We've got more sunshine than anywhere else.
No,
but
absolutely.
It's not the be-all and end-all for everybody.
No, over 300 days. But if you're coming to work, I've been here for 25 years, and I don't see it any sunnier than it might be in Glasgow because I'm sitting in the office. You're sitting in the office all day. So it'd be nice to spend more time on the golf course or at the beach. But if we're here to work, the sunshine's nice at the weekend. At least you can guarantee when you ask your friends round for a barbecue that you're going to have a reasonable chance of good weather all the year round.
Yeah, I'm just going to interject there. One of our viewers, Nick Hardwick, thank you very much. Nick Hardwick dropped me a note after I recorded a programme last week to ask if I go to the beach. I don't watch back my programmes, and the last programme I did with Nelson Ramos from a Shager candidate for Almond Seal, I was wearing a shorter dress, and I haven't been to the beach this year, just haven't had time. So I'd put some tanning lotion stuff on, it didn't work apparently. I looked like two people joined together. It's like the living dead from here down. Nick, thank you for that. I will get myself to the beach. I'll get some stronger looking tan. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, I know we're at the end of the summer now. Officially, White Night in Lulé on the 30th of August. And if I take my shirt off now, it's still milk bottle white. Yeah,
it's those
and white's an improvement from blue.
UK blue, yes,
yeah, absolutely.
So, Gavin, you've got those 3 offices. Do you do all the services in all 3 places, or do you sort of direct one service more to one place than another?
So if you imagine in a medical practice, you might pop in and see your GP, and your GP will then say, look, the condition that you have is out with my scope of knowledge, and therefore he'll bring in an expert to assist. But your GP will still be your point of contact. Okay. So what we have are qualified and regulated financial advisors who will sit down and have the conversation with a new client, discuss their plan. Now that plan might involve a lot other specialised areas. So pensions, for example, is a highly specialised area, and we have highly qualified pension specialists within our team that we would bring in to assist with that.
And will you do that on sort of Zoom meetings and things as well?
We can do. We're quite a traditional firm, and we like to be face to face. So we'll arrange meetings either in our offices in Portugal, or quite often in our offices in St James Place in London. So if we want to bring in, for example, chartered tax advisors to talk about an exit strategy from selling a UK business, then that might take place in our offices in St James Place in London.
Okay. I'm thinking particularly things like post, I think 2002, I think we had the changes to all the offshore laws, and everything suddenly became transparent and again, frightening.
You have been here a long time.
I've been here longer than you. And obviously there were enormous changes, and presumably there's some sort of residual thing that's still going on with that. But often you'd associate that with the Golden Triangle and the enormous investments there, because that started off as business investments, wasn't it, rather than residential, and now it's all residential private. And then after when the offshore laws changed, suddenly you could see who actually owned it, and now they've all become private?
Yeah, well, two things happened there. One, and everybody talks about the offshore world. The reality was it wasn't so much that it was offshore, that these properties were owned in corporate structures. So today those corporate structures could be Portuguese companies, they could be Malta companies, Delaware companies, but they're corporately owned. And quite often there's very good reason for that isn't just about, oh, we're saving tax. It might be succession planning. It might be a trust fund from the UK that's buying property, and because trusts aren't recognised in Portugal, you would use a company in between the trustees and the property ownership to deal with that. So that changed in 2002. The thing that we learned at that time was that the advice was very much not about the corporate structures, but the individuals behind them. And so you would find that somebody at number 5 and somebody at number 7, Rua de Fonseca or whatever they would be, have completely different tax planning requirements and arrangements, even though they look the same from the outside, because people treated it as a corporate decision, but in actual fact it's very much a personal and individual choice. And we've got a number of cases like that through Portugal. We've had very stable tax base in Portugal, despite having governments from the left and from the right and very much the centre. Things have stayed quite steady. So from 2002, the corporate ownership of property has been a developing field where we're seeing more and more private ownership rather than corporate, which was kind of a standard at the time because it was a simpler process. That has evolved. And we see things like the non-habitual residence regime that started in 2009 and went through different colours of government and was retained because of its financial and economic benefit to the country and to the individuals that benefited from it. We've seen that develop, and of course what's happening now is that having gone from 2009, people who started in that at the outset have now been through their 10 years and they're doing transitional planning. So all of that planning needs to be continuous, and it's not, oh, well, I've got my planning done now, I can sit back for 10 years. Changes happen in the
This is just such a massive subject, and we're running out of time. I know that you also do, you attend seminars or you hold seminars. What have you got coming up? Where can we find you?
We've got at the end of, where are we, October, the end of this month, we're running into seminar season, no, September. September the 30th, I think we're in, and we'll check these at the end, I think we're in Vilamoura. The 1st of October we'll be in Lagos, and on the 3rd we'll be up in Cascais. And our seminars are geared to give people the chance to come and approach us personally and meet us face to face in the first place, but to go away with updates on any changes that are happening both here in Portugal and, really importantly for many of our clients, and what's going on, the changes that are taking place in the UK.
So do people register for these online?
They do. They'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We do regular mail shots. They'll be advertised in our wealth news that we send out to people who have registered with us to receive updates on tax positions. And I'm sure we'll make note of it at the end with where people can follow through to find us.
As usual, I'll put it out on my
they would register. They're very, very popular. We do these in the spring and the autumn around budget times and so on.
So do you have a generic website that people go to, or do you divide it between the three?
No, you can contact us through blevensfranks.com. You'll find all of the offices listed there. All of the individuals will have bio stories of who they are, what their backgrounds are on there, so you can learn more about us. We've got tax guide downloads. So if you're thinking about moving back to the UK, or if you're thinking about coming to Portugal, you can download the guide. If you'd like a short conversation with somebody about how the move will affect you personally, we'll have an introductory conversation, and we detail any fees ahead of you incurring any cost. It's my Scottish Presbyterian upbringing. I say, how much will it cost me first? So we like to be clear and transparent about fees and charges.
Wonderful. Okay, so blevensfranks.com, one word.
That's it, Blevins Franks.
Right across the board, all social medias and website.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook.
I will.
We're there.
Gavin, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And I will be, I'm whizzing out of the country a bit. I'll be back and I'll come along and see you on the 30th.
Kat,
That's great.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, and we'll look forward to seeing you at our seminars.
Well, what I'm also hoping for you is I'll be calling on you to jump in on some podcasts with me as well. As the taxation things change and Trump does his thing that sends out a wave of terror or whatever it might be, I'd like to invite you in and come and join me and give me your opinion.
We'll be delighted. I look
Perfect.
forward to meeting many of your viewers. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So another interesting, if not a little bit terrifying, obviously it's really, really important. Go to a specialist, go to somebody who knows what they're doing. There's too much old information out there. There's too many conversations where one will tell another, and it's okay because Auntie Joan did it. And you end up in all sorts of trouble. So please take the time, download the information, contact Gavin and his team, and find out exactly where you really stand. So thank you for that. So again, on a lighter note, we just mentioned about White Night. So we had 92,000, circa 92,000 people in Lulay last Saturday night. And this is a free festival. This is what we do best in the Algarve.
I think I met them all that night.
I don't remember.
We're all squeezing past.
It was an incredible night. I didn't see, and I haven't heard of any trouble at all, which again, very, very typical of Algarvian festivals. Everybody wore white. It went right through the night. Absolutely incredible. So Lulay, congratulations on that one. Absolutely superb.
Well done.
Yeah. And what else have I got to tell you? When you come over here as a foreigner, it's very difficult. So the average age now is 37. You come over, many people expect to be able to jump into a similar job when they get here, especially in the Algarve. It isn't going to happen. You need the language, and of course we are 99% tourism. 95%, 99% tourism. So it isn't going to happen. So it's very much a question of immigrants will come over and you've got to find your own niche. You need to create your own thing, which has been the way that many people you've seen on the programme have developed. They've got their own product or whatever they might be doing. However, we've got a new thing that is currently in phase 3 before the launch in probably April next year. A platform called Shoply. Now, Shoply, if you can imagine, it's like TikTok and Amazon had a baby, in a nutshell. That's it. Shoply, at this early stage, has just partnered with Shopify. And what this means is that all of us, any of us, can kind of work as influencers. I hate that American term. Do I look like an influencer? It gives you the opportunity to access thousands of vendors. You now don't need a contract with an individual vendor. If you promote something, everything that goes into that client's basket is what you get paid on. For a vendor, it means you've got access to thousands worldwide, thousands of influencers. You can train them. Each influencer gets thousands of dollars worth of free AI and social media training. It's just an entirely new concept, but for me, it gives a platform for the kids who can do so much, but they've got so little opportunity to say to them, here's your income, go on a gap year, take your phone, there's your business, go, fund yourself, start to do this and build it. Yes, it's multi-level marketing, but it's the biggest thing on the planet. This is I think, 3 trillion euros or dollars or something is going to be worth in the next year, and we're well on the way now. So I'll put a link up, I'll put some information, a couple of videos up on my Instagram as usual, so that's at Living Life Algarve. Together with all Gavin's information for Blevins Franks, we'll put the UK stuff up there, and we'll put the offices, obviously, for Portugal, and the details of your seminars as well. So opportunities for all. We're going to get these kids now to earn their money, and they can come along and invest with you.
The opportunities are out there, yeah, go and grab them. Go and grab them.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us again today, and we will be seeing you again in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, there may well be another couple of programmes that are coming out to help you understand a little bit more about our political situation here, difference between a president and a prime minister, and all sorts of weird and wonderfuls. So keep joining us, like, comment, subscribe, or join us on Mayo Channel 164. See you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Currency for you, achieving you more for your money.
Bennett's Bedrooms, the #1 bed specialists in the Algarve.
At Living Life Algarve by Kat Almeida.